Okay, we're talking to former students of Mrs. Keddie's, Una Saunders and Doris Saunders, and what I want to know from you is, can you tell me about Mrs. Keddie? What was she like? What was her influence on arts and crafts in the region of Sandwich Bay in Labrador?
She had we always called it Grenfell shop. She had it set up in Cartwright, and she sent her piecework out around to the people of the bay, and they did they were already designed, and they did the embroidery on them, sent them back to her, and she put it together, whatever the piece was for. Doris, you've done some of that too?
Yeah, I've done some piecework. The things I remember doing first were sealskin purses, and we would put the design in and help Mum sew the purses up. And Mum's foster mother did put together coats, like other people would do embroidery, and then sometimes some of the women would put together the garments, although most of the putting together was in the Grenfell shop. I think one thing that Mrs. Keddie was famous for was her quality control. And if there's anything that is outstanding, it's that. If it didn't come up to a certain standard, then it was rejected, or you didn't get as much money for it.
Have we lost any of that in Labrador craft production?
I think so. I think the quality is not there. It's not fair to say it's all lost, but certainly some of it is, because people have a tendency now to get things done to get the money for it. And I don't see the quality that used to be there.
Doris, how did you get involved with, how did you come to know and to work with Mrs. Keddie?
Well, she had sewing class started in the school. And when you turned 8 years old, you had to go to sewing class. There was no way to get out of it. And I remember Dorothy Fecky was her instructor, Dorothy Williams was the instructor in St. Peter's School. And I remember just before I turned 8, Mrs. Williams come and talked to Mom, and I was sitting there, and she said Doris would be starting sewing class the next time. I think it was on Wednesdays. And I went to sewing class for 8 years. Mrs. Keddie would come over from time to time and inspect it, and tell us we were doing good, or tell us we had to improve.
That's where your fine work had its beginning.
Yep.
Una, how old were you, and how did you come to work with Mrs. Keddie? And so maybe an experience or two of yours with Mrs. Keddie.
I don't know exactly when I started, but I went to Lockwood School, which is across the harbour from St. Peter's, where Doris went. And we were there, came in the fall and stayed on to spring, and that's how we made our pocket money. Mrs. Keddie gave us work to do. We never did have classes such as Doris had, but I guess we did trial and error. And we did such things as sticky pockets and tablecloths and small pieces with a small look, maybe that size. We get 5 cents for that. And that's the only money we had, 5 cents for one of these.
Now, I read somewhere that in many cases, in exchange for the crafts and the work that you did for Mrs. Keddie, that the clothing was sent, and you got clothing in exchange for your work.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, one of my jobs was when Mum got enough pieces done to bring over to the Grenfell shop, the industrial shop. I'd get a leave from school and go over with some of the women in the village. And you'd go over, and she'd give you a piece of paper saying how much money you put, the amount of money on there, and then you'd go to the clothing store and take up that amount in clothing. And what I was instructed to look for was heavy knitted sweaters, or big coats that could be cut over and made into smaller coats.
and wool that could be ravelled and into mitts or socks or whatever was needed at the time.
Did you, what happened to the things that you made and the many other crafts people in Cartwright, the women mostly? The things that they made, what happened? Where'd they go?
Okay, there's two different things here. What the women made went to the industrial shop, and some of it was sold in the shop in Cartwright, and I would imagine some was sent to St. Anthony. What we did in the sewing class, we had a sale at the end of the year, around late May, I guess, and the money we made from that bought the materials for the next year. That's as far as I know. I mean, they might have spent it on something else, but I'm pretty well sure that's where we got the material for the next year.
I gather that Mrs. Keddie was held in high esteem by many of the people. She seems to be almost a legend.
Yes, I think you can say that. She had girls working with her, you know, in the industrial shop. They were the ones who put things together after they came back embroidered. Very good quality.
What's the industrial shop?
It's just that, an industrial shop where they did all their sewing. They had all their materials, and there was a cutting room, sewing room in the back. And the front of the shop was where the things were for sale.
Like a present-day crafts
Yes.
workroom.
Mm-hmm.
But you could go in there and see the girls working. People like Millie Davis and Winnie Williams.
Winnie Williams.
Yeah. It was fun. Duffel flying everywhere.
Yes.
Okay.
You find bugs a darn nuisance, Andy?
Oh, I know they are. A terrible nuisance. Nothing happens when you want it to happen, you know that, eh?
Are you rolling yet, Tony?
Mm-hmm.
Is he rolling? I can't do anything when somebody's looking at me.
Una, you're originally from the Cartwright area.
Yes, Table Bay.
Did you live in Cartwright as well? Yeah, obviously.
You went to school in Cartwright. We used to go in the fall and stay all winter, go out again in the spring. Couldn't go in until after the fish was made and shipped.
Now you're from that area, and Cartwright is pretty well known for its crafts, the work of its craftspeople. Can you tell me some of the things that Cartwright and the Sandwich people from the Sandwich Bay, Table Bay, Spotted Islands area are most noted for in their crafts work?
I would say their embroidery. On linens, but they were really good at embroidery on deerskin as well, for mitts and moccasins. They didn't do a lot of beading, but embroidery was the thing they did.
Is that still a strong area of crafts in that area?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
How about men? What kinds of crafts were they involved in?
Oh, men, they made all their snowshoes and their comatics and, I don't know, anything they needed, they could do.
Carving, wood carving?
Not a lot of carving, but there was some people who did.
They were noted for snowshoes.
Mm-hmm. They built their own boats, a lot of them.
That's it?
I think that's it. I think that's all.
Just do a little more sewing there.
Okay.
I just want to get some pictures. Continue chatting with us,
Okay.
just for shots more than anything else.
Una, how long ago was it since you moved from that area?
I moved down here in 1948.
And was the okay, Mrs. Keddie was there during that time. When do you remember when she came to the Cartwright area?
No, I don't, because she was already there, and had the shop set up when I went to school, so I wouldn't know much about it before then.
Okay, I want to get a...
The, how long was she there? Into the 50s, was it?
Yes,
You see left, the right, your left part of it, on the bottom, the right coat there? Yeah, it was buckled up. There we go.
Okay, hold on. Steady there. There you go. Got it, that's good. That's not... Oops. We lost it, didn't we?
did you?
Just leave it there and work on what you work. Just fold it forward. There you go.
Doesn't work very well.
That's all right. It's, show.
Did Mrs. Keddie retire? Is that why she left eventually, or?
No, she didn't retire. I think, I really don't know how it come to be, but I don't think she was retired. But she was killed in a car accident.
Oh, was that?
Somewhere in Canada, yes.
Do you remember how old she was when?
No, I don't know how old she was.
Tragic.
Yes. Nice way for her to go, though, and then instead of having to wait around, I would think, because she was a very active person.
Yeah. Did they bring her back to bury her in Labrador? You know.
I don't think so. No.
But she's originally from this area.
Well, her father was a Hudson Bay man, Wilson.
And where was he stationed? You know.
Riglet.